In this video, I'm going to narrate a Michael Hall article so that you can listen while doing some other activity like sitting in a car, bus or train, or out for a walk, or while making dinner. Now, Michael Hall is a co-founder of Neuro-Semantics, which was created to raise the quality of ethics and professionalism in NLP and to take NLP to a high level of quality and presentation. The article is titled Beyond Pro-Con Decision Making. In this article, Michael leads you through 18 steps in making a decision. It is very similar to the NLP well-formed outcome questions, but here the focus is on making a decision. To make it easy for you to understand, I will run some content through the procedure. So I've been thinking about buying an electric bike for about a year, but I've never quite got around to it. So let's read through the article and see how it goes. So once again, the title is Beyond Pro-Con Decision Making. In meta coaching, we use the axis of change as our first and primary model for enabling people to make intelligent, robust, and ecological decisions. Specifically, we use the second axis, the decision axis, which is based on the meta program of reflective, active. To that end, we invite a client to reflect on the pros and cons of a choice. What are the advantages if you make that choice? What are the disadvantages? Typically, this leads to a whole list of reasons why a choice would be beneficial and reasons why a person has to be cautious, because it will have another set of things that will cost the person. This pro and con orientation in decision making is what we all use. To a great extent, it is how we naturally and inevitably think. That is, we default to thinking in terms of choices and contrasts, values and disvalues, this or that. Simultaneously, we also think in terms of the reasons why I am for or against something. For this reason, it makes perfect sense to start by asking for the advantages and disadvantages. But the pro-con list is just the beginning. There's much more to do if you are to generate great decisions, and especially if you want to create highly intelligent or smart decisions. What potential problems could there be? Yes. Human reasoning. And why? Because when we reason, even if you have been highly trained in effective, clear, rational, systemic reasoning, you still are liable to the cognitive biases and also to the cognitive distortions and fallacies. If you're not aware of that, check out the newest book from Neuro-Semantics entitled Executive Thinking: Activating Your Highest Executive Thinking Potentials, 2018. Okay, so a well-formed decision. NLP introduced the idea of a well-formed outcome some 40 years ago, and from that I developed a neurosemantic precision template, and from that created a well-formed problem, a well-formed solution, a well-formed innovation. All are now in the book Creative Solutions 2017, as well as other well-formed patterns. So how about a well-formed decision? Doesn't that make sense if we want to make great and intelligent decisions? Given that, here is a list of questions. Questions within certain categories that enable a person to construct a well-formed decision. The well-formed decision questions. The subject of the decision. First, identify the subject of the decision. Okay, so as I said before, what I'm going to do is to run some content through this to make it easy for you to understand, hopefully. So step one, what is the decision you want or need to make? What are your choices? So in my case, I need to do something about transportation. My health's not so good. I can only walk about half a kilometre. My body's a bit wrecked. And I was thinking about buying an electric bike for about a year now, and I haven't got around to it. So step 2, what will the decision look like or sound like? When you make it, you will say what? Well, I guess I'll make a credit card payment, and that's it. Step 3, why is it important to you to make this decision? Why is it important to make this decision? Well, in my case, I have limited mobility. I need mobility because I want to be able to get out there. And for my entire life, I would spend about an hour, 2 hours a day walking. And now I don't do that. And I want to get an electric bike so I can put it in the back of my car, drive down the road, take the bike out of the car, get on the bike, and I want to get out and take some photographs. I want to put the camera on the front of the bike so I can video while I'm riding along. That's very important to me, not just for personal reasons, but for business reasons, because I need those photographs, the films, for my YouTube channel. And I was thinking, a few years ago, I was thinking of coming back to do some training with Michael Hall in Sydney, and what stopped me was the fact that I didn't have the mobility. And I thought, well, if I get myself on an electric bike, so I could fly down, but then I could courier the bike down to the hotel, then that would allow me to ride from the hotel to the venue and to go to the shops and get something to eat afterwards. So it's a very important decision for me. Okay, so now the next heading is the contextual situation of the decision. Decisions, like every other experience, occurs in some context. Identify the specific context for the decision under consideration. So question 4 is, when do you need to make the decision? Well, the more I delay, I need to make it fit. I would like to make the decision in the next couple of weeks. Next question, number 5. In what area of life is this decision relevant? Where? How does it or could it influence other areas of your life? So in what area of life is the decision relevant? Well, for me, electric bike, it would give me mobility. It would get me out there in the world once again. I just love walking around the streets and just going to places. So it would get me around. I could do filming, do videos. It would help in my social life because I could actually go and see some friends, at the beach or someplace, and they're out there walking, but I could get on my bike and I could ride by them or something like this. It would be quite significant. Could be quite significant. So it's every area of my life's impacted. Question 6, is anyone else involved in making the decision? Are you the sole decider? So this is the who. No, it's just me, but I have friends who influence me. So I was going to buy a folding bike, and a friend says, oh, I don't want to buy a folding bike, you can fall off those, better to get a 26-inch. Like, oh yeah, but 26-inch, will it fit in the back of my car? Anyway, so I need to sort that out. So the next heading is the required actions of the decision. So as an experience, you have to do something to make a decision. You have to do something to make a decision. Identify these actions, even if they are the micro actions of thinking and feeling. So question 7 is, what do you need to know to make the decision? What information do you need to gather, and from who or where? How much information do you need? What else do you need to do to make the decision? You get that? So what do you need to know to make the decision? Well, I've already done quite a lot of research online for electric bikes. I've even phoned Department of Transport, that's the police, Department of Transport, about legality of changing things on the bike so that it can work off the throttle rather than pedal assist. But what do I need to know? What I really need to know is that I can ride the bike, that my balance is good, and that my shoulders are okay. So I've got 2 frozen shoulders. Incredibly painful if I do the wrong thing. So I need to have the confidence that I can actually ride the bike and it's not going to hurt my shoulders, because if it hurts my shoulders, the pain's excruciating and it would be hard to stay on the bike. So I actually need to get out there to some shops and get on some bikes and just make sure that I can actually ride the bike. What do you need to know to make the decision? And then I have a Commodore wagon. See, the folding bike would fit in the back okay, but if I get the 26-inch wheel bike, which is going to probably be more secure, and then I could get the mountain bike version with the extra suspension, that's what they call it, front and back suspension, which would probably be a good idea, so I don't jar my shoulders. So they're the key aspects. So that means bike has to be able to fit in the back of my car. So I need to sort things out, put the seats down so I can do that. Okay. Next heading, the inner power, capacity for making the decision. Given that action is required for a decision, then inner ability is also required. So step 8, is the information available now? Yeah, I can get that. How much information is currently available? If you don't know, what probably would you estimate? Is that information within your control to access? If not, then who has access to it? Yeah, I can get the information. So you've got to be able to get the information. Step 9, do you have the capacity to get the required information, to process it? Yeah, I got the capacity to do that. I can get online, phone people, I can go to bike shops, phone the police. I've already done that. Step 10. Yeah, and I can process it. Step 10. Have you ever made a similar decision in the past? What did you do that enabled your decision making? Well, yes. 2-3 years ago, I looked at buying an electric scooter. I thought that electric scooter is a good idea. The only problem is you get an electric scooter which is sort of like powerful enough to move a man around and to go up little hills. They're actually illegal. Department of Transport categorised that as a motor vehicle, and there's quite a serious fine for doing that. So I ended up getting a kick scooter, which is one of those little scooters that, you have to push along. But I put a lot of time into it. The problem was that it wore me out. Like, I still got a problem with the inflammation from using that. And so the problem was that I didn't get to test the scooter before I purchased it. So with the bike, I need to test the bike before I purchase it. I need to test the bike or a similar bike before I purchase it. That's what's held me back all along. I don't want to spend $1,500 on a bike and then a couple of months later have it sit down in the garage and then have to sell it off for $500. It sucks. Okay. Next step, the planning process of decision making. With big decisions and decisions that will forge a new or long-term direction for life, you will probably want to plan it in order to manage it over time. Identify how you will do this. So question 11 is, how do you plan to gather the information and order it so you can make a decision? If others are involved in the planning, information gathering, or deciding, what is your plan for integrating them in the process? Oh, that's interesting. Well, in my case, it's just me. But if there was a team, you'd have to coordinate that process. And then you'd have to know what information they're gathering against a certain criteria. And then you'd have to compile it. So for me, it's fairly straightforward with buying an electric bike. Step 12, what cognitive biases, distortions, and fallacies may be in the information you gather? Do you know how to question, check, and clean up the biases, distortions, and fallacies? Do you have someone on the team who can do that? Well, the cognitive biases, distortions, and fallacies, what you get when you go on the market to buy something, people will say, oh yeah, this is okay, this will do, it'll do that, it'll do this, it'll do that, and you have to use a meta model. So you just use a meta model questions, and you have to really challenge everything they actually say, and then you want to make sure that it's actually going to be done in practice, that it'll actually work, not just what they say. People will say anything. So I really annoy salespeople sometimes because I do my research, you know. For example, with buying the electric bike, I actually also phoned the Department of Transport to find out what the legality was with the bikes and the scooters. And it's different in different states in Australia. And because as soon as you have an electric bike or a scooter which can go faster than 6 kilometres an hour unassisted, it becomes a motor vehicle. And then they're not regulated by the Department of Transport. And so if you've got an electric bike which goes faster than 6 kilometres just by the throttle, then it's an unregistered vehicle, and then there's all the fines and penalties that come with that. And I'm the sort of guy who just likes to do things the right way. I don't like doing things that are illegal, even though the risk of getting pulled over is quite low. It's just like I just like to do the right thing because I feel better. Okay, step 13. How will you monitor a long-term decision that requires ongoing observation and action? How will you monitor a long-term decision that requires ongoing observation and action? What feedback will you want or need to stay on plan? So I guess if there's a long-term decision process, I keep notes, etc. But in my case, it's not a long-term decision process. I just need to do the research over the next week or two and make a decision. And I guess so there needs to be a time limit on it. It's just like maybe 2 weeks, maybe by the end of June, which is a bit more, end of June, made the decision, because then I could be out there filming. So now we get to the supportive resources for deciding. As an experience, it can be supplied with sufficient resources or it can lack them. Identify the resources that you want to round out your deciding. God, Michael. So, step 14. Is there anything that can or will stop or interfere with you getting the information, formulating it, and making a decision from it? What? Is there anything that can or will stop or interfere with you getting the information formulated? Well, it's just my health, my tiredness, but I have to deal with it all the time. And so what I do is I just put it on my to-do list. I just go out and do it. And it's, we haven't got to ecology yet, have we? I have to feel, it has to feel right for me. Like I can't do anything which is illegal, and I want to know that I can ride the bike. So what potential risks are there? Oh, well, the risk. Well, if you buy an electric bike and you modify it, you modify the wiring so that you can use it from the throttle. Well, there's a big risk there. Off-road, it's fine. What risk management skills you need? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? How to deal with the police. So, love the cops. So how much risk is there involved? Well, I guess if I don't modify it, if I just use it 6Ks, it's legal, it's okay. There's no risk at all, apart from the fact that I need to make sure that I can ride the bike. I can do that beforehand. So as long as my shoulders are okay. What contingency plans have you set up? Contingency plans? It's like, Jesus. Maybe I can get the bike on a trial. Okay, 15, what resources do you need so that you can do this effectively and intelligently? What resources need? What external resources? What internal resources? Well, I need to speak to some people. I need to try things out. Resources. Internal resources. It's just like I need to... Like, if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. I haven't had this sort of transport for a couple of years, 2-3 years. So it has to be done. Has to be done. Internal resources, and then it will help me to get out there and do some filming, which is very important to me. 16. Step 16. How will you test a final decision to make sure it is ecological for you? How will you test? Well, it has to feel right. Has to feel right. It's weighing up the pros and cons. Oh, that's interesting. This is beyond pros and cons. It's weighing it up. Mitigating the risks. Feeling confident that I can ride the bike, my balance will be good, my shoulders can handle it, and getting out there in the world will be good for my health too. How will you determine if it will create any long-term unintended consequences? I don't know. That's like if my body doesn't handle it. Like, my poor old body's wrecked. Just it had to be really easy. Like, I can't do the pedaling, because if I do the pedaling, that will cause inflammation problems. I can't do that. So as long as I can just sit on the bike, should be okay, as long as the seats are right, etc., etc. So how will you test the final decision to make sure it's ecological? Well, the way is to be able to test drive as much as I can. So now we get to concluding and deciding. How will you bring closure to the process of decision? Step 17. How will you know when you're ready to make a decision? Well, as I've been saying all the way through, I would be going through that process, gathering information, testing, real world, sensory-based reality. Yeah, sensory-based experience. That's it, sensory-based experience. When you make the decision, what will be the convincer for you? The convincer will be, well, it's like if I had a damn bike, an electric bike, and if I could trial it out for 2 or 3 weeks, even 2 or 3 weeks, well, 2 or 3 weeks, you know, that would be it. And so in what representational system? Well, the convincer, well, if I was actually out there on the street and I was actually riding, if I was getting the bike, I was putting in and out of the car. Once I've done the in and out of the car 2 or 3 times and a week's gone by, and I see how my body responds to lifting the bike in and out of the car. If I can do that, if the body handles it, that'll be a convincer. And then if I'm able to ride, you know, around the streets day and evening, do some filming, and I can manage that, and I could do that 2 or 3 times, and then, you know, put the bike back in the car, etc., come home, or whatever it actually is. If I can do that, then it will feel right to me. It will feel right. Sensory based. Step 18, what will be the evidence that you have made a decision and ready to move forward? So in my case, it's literally move forwards. What would be the evidence that you've made a decision? Well, or the evidence would be the transaction. I made the transaction, I'll have the receipt. Will it be written, stated aloud, confirmed with someone else, or what? Evidence I made the decision. Well, for me, making the decision, yeah, you make the decision, but it's the actual action. That's what it is. It's not just saying I'm going to buy the bike. It's like, no, I purchased the bike. That's it. So that's it. I hope my ramblings through this decision-making process has been helpful to you. You can find links to the article, this actual article with the 18 steps for making a great decision on my site. There's links to Michael Hall's website and his books in the information section below the video. And if you want to listen to more podcast type videos like this, then just leave a comment in the comments box below. And to stay in touch, remember to like, subscribe and share the video. All the best to you. I look forward to seeing you again.